Rise Race the Future is the newest arcade racer to come to the Nintendo Switch. Originally released for PC last fall, this new release brings along one of the best looking racers I've seen on Nintendo's console. It's got a learning curve to it, but once you've adjusted, it can be quite the joyride. At first glance, you may mistake Rise Race of the Future for just another mobile racing game ported over to the Switch for a quick cash grab, and I don't blame you. Looking at the UI and the visual language, it certainly gives off that vibe. Don't be fooled though, underneath this simplistic design style is one challenging arcade racer. While Rise is still an arcade racer at heart, what makes it stand out to me is how the physics of it feel more like a technical simulator than an arcade racer. It's a mix of both. Cars here feel heavier than other arcade racers. Turns have this heft to them, so any knockback or crash you experience can really throw you off the track. More often than not, you're better off just restarting a race than actually trying to spiral around and get back on the track. In that sense, there's a whole learning curve to driving here because it feels different from other arcade racers. It feels more like a simulator. Once you've adapted to how cars handle, you start to get into the groove of things. However, I do see this being a hurdle for some players that only play arcade racers or kart racers. It plays completely differently when it comes to turns that can push players away who just don't adjust well. The gameplay here is split into three main game modes consisting of challenges, champions, and time attack. Time attack is pretty self-explanatory. Challenges and champions are the main attractions here. Challenges come in groups called seasons where you're given objectives for each race. Sometimes you'll be asked to come in first place or maybe just get a better place than a certain car. Completing these challenges lead to new seasons, including new unlockables such as cars to race with. When you first start Rise, you only have one main car to drive in with very little customization. You can change the color of the car, the type of boost you have, and view the stats of the car. The stats consist of power, grip, stability, and steering. As you unlock new cars in the challenges, your selection of cars and their stats become more diverse. You begin with a few all-around cars, while the unlockables start to focus more on certain driving qualities. There's a total of 10 cars with 4 worlds and 3 track types for each of these worlds. Races were pretty straightforward, but fun. The vistas I got to travel through felt lively and the AI felt competent, at least when I was playing in the pro difficulty or higher. Tracks would occasionally feature some water sections that transform the cars accordingly. When traveling in water, the physics of the car changes up but still maintains the simple control scheme of being on land. Ultimately, Rise felt like a solid and competent arcade racer. I wouldn't say that its gameplay is as approachable as most arcade racers. There's definitely a learning curve here that offers a challenge. Get past it and you'll have a good solo racing experience, but that's about it. Sadly, there isn't currently an online or local multiplayer option. Outside of the time attack and racing your own times, you're pretty much out of luck. In the end, Rise is a straightforward racer that I think reflects its entry price pretty well. What surprised me most about the visual style for Rise was just how great it looked for a small indie dev team. I played my share of racing games both on and off the Switch, and in terms of indies specifically on the Switch, Rise Race of the Future stands out as one of the best. That's not a surprise with this being the same dev team that worked on Ironfall, the third-person shooter 60 FPS title on the 3DS. A pretty impressive technical feat. Tracks here have a nice variety of different weather conditions and terrains across 4 main biomes and weather types. Don't get me wrong, this isn't Gran Turismo or Forza, but for an arcade racer, tracks here never felt empty. These stages always featured something on display with a saturated look over it all, usually sprinkled with some nice weather effects on top. When racing during the day, the sun would reflect on the edge of the screen, while in the rain, I could make out the tiny water droplets scurrying across the screen. Racing in the dirt even got the tiniest of dust particles to start to gather on my car. I wish that would have translated over with car crashes because any form of destruction here is missing. As for performance, Rise runs at a locked 1080p 30 frames per second in dock mode and 720p 30 FPS while in handheld mode. It's a bit of a bummer to see this capped at 30 FPS, but with the visuals on display, I can see why the FPS was capped. It's a fair trade-off. If any part of Rise really felt mediocre to me, it'd be the audio design. The music here felt like an iMovie track just looped in the background for the races. Some fit tracks better than others. The bad part was that the default mix puts the music to be louder than the sound effects. The sound design for cars' turns and crashes all sound great, and so it's a bummer to have them being drowned out by the music. Rise Race the Future is certainly one of the best looking racing games on the go. It's just not one of the best sounding ones though. After my first few hours of playing, I pretty much switched over to listening to an audiobook while playing in handheld mode. Rise Race the Future is a great looking and challenging fun single player racer. It's not flashy by any means, just acting as a straightforward racer with simple controls and track design. It lacks any form of multiplayer, and so the replay value pretty much just drops at completing the challenges and beating your own times over and over again. It's not as fleshed out as I would have hoped, but for a game launching at $16.49 with this much polish, it's hard to complain about it.